Good afternoon. How are you? Well, Thomas Jefferson tells me it's 82 degrees out. I feel like I'm in a sauna or something. Well, that's probably because of the humidity, which is 85%. And the wind is at a ripping 3.5 miles an hour. And every once in a while I felt a little gust, but not now. So there it is. There's somebody out on a little motorcycle. You see how some are cheating in the great races across Europe? They're hiding motors inside their bicycles. Can anybody do it honest? So I think we need a continuing discussion about what's really going on instead of what people are talking about, because they hide the ball on us, and they don't, because we see it enough. We have enough data points to know the system is corrupt, and unless you're very wealthy, up to and including a billionaire, you're not part of this government when it comes down to getting what you want. If you're a billionaire, we suspend everything. We tell you we're equal, all of us, but we're not. They say no man is above the law, but men and women and entities that the wealthy own and control, different story. And so every once in a while, the government can threaten the wealthy, make them bow, pay obeisance, pay some funds in order to continue the relationship they have that you and I do not have. Now, I know I'm being presumptive, but let's talk a little bit about how races are run. Now, I've worked on campaigns. I ran for Congress myself and some other campaigns, but I've never entered this league. You know, I raised something like $500,000 back in '84 to run for Congress, and 95,000 voters supported me in the general election. But the rest, they thought I should remain a trial lawyer instead. And I'm not sure I appreciated it at the time, but I think they were right for me and who I am and what I did when not going to the U.S. Congress. So let's start with the money making. This year, 2025 to 2026, you can contribute $3,500 to a candidate per election. So if there's a primary, you can contribute $3,500. If there's also a general election, you can contribute another $3,500, and therefore you max out at $7,000. Now, what about the very wealthy? A wealthy individual, through super PACs and dark money groups, can spend as much as he, she, it wants. So, for example, you could spend to a national party, I think the number is $44,300 right now. Now, for selective things for the party, you know, like the building they use or something like that, $132,900 for one of these special access facilities per year. Now, super PACs, that's where it's at. Super PACs are allowed to raise unlimited amounts, but they can't coordinate with the candidate. Wink, wink. Tell me that they don't. But okay, let's assume they don't. Still, they're laying out a fortune. And to be precise, or as precise as I think I can be, because I don't know what's hidden, is in 2024, in the election, billionaires spent $2 billion. 150 families spent that. So if you were to take 15 of your families, would you come out with 10% of this? I don't think so. So are we all out and subordinate to the billionaires in the category of funding? Absolutely. So there's that powerful money. Now, this has been debated. In 2010, there's a case, you know, Citizens United against the FEC, Federal Election Commission. And I always think it should be Plutocrats United, because that's really what the case turned out to be in a 5-4 decision. And the court said that you can't restrict the spending of corporations. Corporations are people too. Oh, yeah. It's sort of like they're always busy trying to make something into a person so that it fits a statute, so that they get some advantage out of it. And the Supreme Court decided that a law that limited the very wealthy from spending every dime they want was a violation of the First Amendment. Now, Justice Paul Stevens, he wrote a dissent, and he said the majority decision of the 5 was a decision that rejected the common sense of the people who have recognized the need to prevent corporations from undermining self-government. Self-government is that portion of the Constitution that says you and I, we, the people, are supposedly the government. But you see, these guys will distort, change, usurp anything for power. And at our expense, literally. Taking the money to give a lesser burden in terms of taxes to the wealthy, and taking away, promoting the welfare, the general welfare, by taking money from people and putting it in arms. Why? To suppress us, to have adventurous wars, because Trump, his fatness, he thinks that he should be like Alexander the Great or something. Now, the wealthy can't win. In addition, this is something else. What does all that money buy you? It buys you a larger megaphone. I once said that. Somebody said, a megaphone's not that big. I said, it's a metaphor. You never metaphor you didn't like? And I said, it's the access in so many ways. And today that's electronic. And it's figuring out who you are, shaping a message with an algorithm to get you to believe that the Republicans are for you in every district race and the presidential race and the Senate races and all of those. And if the Dems have less, and they decide to try to be tricky and deceitful, they are not heard as much as the Republicans are. So the campaign promises, and we've now seen this in the case of Trump, are lies. They're lies about the promises they make, and they also attack whomever is the candidate because they defame that person. So they reduce that person, they're offering things. Now, when you think about it, how can you claim any election has a mandate when the people are misled about what's at stake? And there was no mention that the big bad bill that Trump embraces like the American flag, tart, and tells people they're going to get what they want. A chicken in every pot used to be the way this was described years ago. But they're offering more than that. And they're out there trying to change the district lines. And those districts that they couldn't win, knowing the Supreme Court will probably let them draw any goddamn picture that they want for any district line. So there's the money. Outrageous. There are the lies. There's the defamation. There's redrawing the lines. There's intimidating people out of voting. Still, they talk as if they have a mandate to do what they lied about. That they're not doing anything to accomplish. In fact, they're doing the opposite. So it is that what we face is the big buck billionaires versus we the people. It is the state versus the community. It is the extraordinarily wealthy. Could you spend it all yourself? We're hearing millionaires every day now say, I'm going to spend all my money before I die. They're probably believers in the afterlife, and they're trying to bargain their way into an eternity of, well, donning that good look to get into the pearly gates and then becoming whom they've always been. Now, what's upsetting to me is we got Dems on board. And why are they on board? There was an old saying when I was doing corruption cases in New York, you follow the money. And you hear it a lot today. But that's what you look at. Follow the money. You'll see what they're doing. You'll see it ain't for you and I. Now, am I talking about a class struggle? Yes. I'm talking about a class struggle because we have had before a blended agreement that gave a role to everybody. The wealthy would pay taxes. The middle class would get jobs. Those who needed transfer payments would get some element of that. We had made a blended society of capitalism, some might say socialism, and it worked pretty well. It's never been perfect. In fact, we talk about in our early documents that it's to form a more perfect union. And it's been savaged, at least since 2010 with the Supreme Court, certainly 2015, when Trump came down an elevator, he came down an escalator. Kind of similar, right? And started, just showing how bigoted he was. We're going to take care of those people from south of the border, We want white Americans, all males. If we didn't have to have children, we wouldn't have any women. Nobody has said that, but the attitude marks that kind of thinking. So, who and what is the alternative? If the Dems sell out, not as much as the Republicans are long gone. They would let you beat the shit out of a kid on the street if Trump told you. They talk about shooting somebody at Times Square. Oh, he could eviscerate somebody. It wouldn't matter to these people. Just give me the money. Give me the money. Show me the money was from a movie, and it was true and real. That's what people believed then, and that's what these people believe now. So, who is our alternative? Well, this is another study, a political study. Perhaps it's Zohran Mamdani, the fellow who, at 33, managed to win the primary in New York to be the Democratic candidate running against, a variety of people, including Mario Cuomo, whom he beat in these primaries, if you will. Now, keep in mind that when this election was had, there's a notion called proportional representation, and others call it ranking. And when I was in high school and college, I volunteered with the Citizens Union, because a guy named Hallett, Hallett, he was pushing this, and it appealed to my mathematical mind. So if we have three candidates, and I vote 1, 2, 3, and the third candidate comes out third, then they look at who is my second choice. And that might mean 1 or 2 is the beneficiary. And you multiply that across all the voters. And so you then can say we have chosen a true representative of the people because it takes account of their first, second, third, fifth choices. And, the Democrats don't like that because they want to game the system, with drawing lines and cheating and letting some people vote and others not vote. That's what America's become. Now, we see what Mamdani has done in New York. So who comes out and attacks him? Baggy Pants Fetterman says Mamdani is not a Democrat. This from a guy who voted for the big bad bill. He claims what? He's a Democrat? When all the Democrats voted against the big bad bill? But him? And, I think there's one other, I'm not sure. But I know Fetterman did. And he would tell us not to be for Mamdani because he's not enough of a Democrat. What is wrong with people? Do we lust to have Cuomo give us a chance to embarrass us again? No, he does not get that chance. I am sad that he's made a mess of his career because he couldn't keep his hands to himself, grabbing people without their consent, doing whatever the hell he did, and then basically admitting it by resigning and not fighting over it. So, we know how that goes. He's not a sympathetic figure, and the fact that he stayed in is because the establishment doesn't want new thinking Democrats who might win because they are what the people want. So no amount of money might deflect people from choosing a guy like Mamdani or others in congressional districts and Senate districts across the nation. Because if we have candidates that are really able and willing to talk clear and to resist the moneyed interests, then we have a chance at having a real representative government. So something is going on, though, with Mamdani, a good thing. And so I encourage you to tell every elected official that from now on, you either toe the line and fight for our rights, meaning that you don't give in to their dollar demands, that you do what they want, because otherwise they won't give you money. You serve us. I don't mean you punish them, but let's be fair. That would be nice. Let's start there. And whether you rank the votes or have proportional representation, I don't care. And I think we should look at issues that really do matter. We should talk about the corrupt Republicans. We should say it everywhere. And those people in Congress, Democrats and the Republicans who would like to be part of the New Deal, if you will, with America, they should come forward and say, we're not doing this anymore. If I'm going to lose my seat, so be it. I'm not going to be a pigeon for these guys. So what does our boy Mamdani want? He wants things like making public buses free. As a kid in New York, with a bus pass, I could go anywhere. It opens your mind. It gives you access to things, all the public parks and so forth. He wants to freeze rent control. When I was a student, a long time ago, my rent control apartment near Columbia was $94.17 a month. He wants to have free child care. He wants to make $30 the minimum wage. If that's not the kind of dialogue we want to have with you and me, and not the billionaires, then I don't know what is. And Democrats running around, running him down, and running down his proposals, they don't got anything better to say. They're only interested in control. So, on this sweaty Sunday, I hope you had a good day, and we'll talk some more about this tomorrow. So I say goodbye to you from the Cathedral of Trees. All the best. Bye-bye.